Studios, the AusBiz COB is the key stuff you need to know about the day in business and finance.
Welcome to the COB. I'm Sue Lannon. We're closing down the day this Friday. The market rose today after 3 days of sell-offs, with miners and banks boosting the market. We saw 8 out of 11 sectors higher on the ASX 200. Let's have a look at the CBO 200 at the moment. It's up about 1/5 of a percentage point, and the ASX 200 up about 1/4 of a percentage point. And one of the stocks going down today was Main Pharma. It tumbled on news the Treasurer may plan to block its $672 million takeover. Let's have a look at the themes for today. Now, we saw a Trump-Xi truce, and it was the meeting everyone had been waiting for. Now, in the end, the President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping agreed to avoid escalating their trade war. So we saw Mr. Trump agree to lower fentanyl tariffs from 20% to 10%, and China agreed to increase purchases of US soybeans and delay export controls on rare earths. However, could be more trouble ahead. The US Senate voted to end Trump's tariffs on 100 countries, but let's see if Mr. Trump agrees. Stocks snap back. As we mentioned, miners boosted the market after the price of gold increases overnight. Now, we did see the ASX rattled by higher inflation this week and the prospect of no more rate cuts for a while from the RBA. And the central bank meets on Tuesday, Melbourne Cup Day, but it is expected to stay on hold because of the stronger than expected inflation numbers. And ResMed rises. The sleep apnea company says first quarter earnings rose to $1.3 billion. Let's have a look now at the sectors of the day. Now, as I mentioned, miners did really well today. BHP lost ground. I should say gold miners did really well today. Rio Tinto's lower, but gold miners really stood out. Let's turn to the banks. ANZ lost some ground. National Australia Bank was flat. The Commonwealth Bank, one of the best performers, up nearly 1%, as was Westpac. And looking to our other sectors, utilities. Now, AGL rose 2%, even though it did see a fall in LNG volumes. Origin Energy fell nearly 3%, and Contact Energy was flat today. Let's have a look at some of the top corporate stories. Now, as I mentioned, the sleep device maker ResMed reported a 9% increase in first quarter earnings to $1.3 billion US. It's also announced plans to expand manufacturing in the United States. ANZ says second half profit will be hit by restructuring charges, impairments, and other one-off charges totaling $1.1 billion. And Capstone Copper says net profit rose to $248 million US. Now, Origin Energy saw a 5% fall in revenue to $212 billion for the quarter, and that's why the stock fell. And Endeavour Group reported a fall in sales over the September quarter. The stock of the day was ResMed. Andrew spoke with our export experts, Adam Dawes from Shaw and Partners and Junbei Liu from 10Cap.
Look, this is a growth company that at a very reasonable multiple. It's a strong buy. The share price has underperformed into this result, and it ticks every single box. This company is trading on 22 times for earnings growth, double-digit earnings growth, something like 17%, and all the fear about the GLP-1 drugs affecting the CPAP market and like, we're certainly not yet seeing anything.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a strong buy from me as well. I remember Junbei and I talking on this show and potentially other forums about ResMed and how it's a buy 5, even 7 years ago now. And you know, ResMed was $7, and we were like, yeah, it's a buy. You should get into it. And I don't think the thesis has really changed for me on this one. Obviously, 9% up, particularly in sales, is good. But that gross margin, I think, is really where they're getting the most bang for their buck in there. And as Junbei said, obviously getting product recalls just helps their business, you know, exponentially as well.
Now let's talk to Clifford Bennett. We lost you there, Clifford. He's giving us some market analysis.
It's good to be back, Sue. Sorry,
Yes.
it's out in the bush here, so Starlink let us down for a moment. Apologies for that.
No problem at all. Yes, so what did you make of the Xi-Trump meeting?
Yes, I'm not sure how much you heard the first time, so I'll speak quickly just in case. I thought it was as good as it gets, or as good as you could expect, but I think the market was having too high expectations and therefore will experience a little bit of disappointment over that. But I think it was excellent progress. Things certainly didn't get worse, and there was always the risk of that, Trump getting up and leaving the table or something because he was so frustrated. That didn't happen. So I think it's a good outcome. Progress was made, and the door's been left open for further resolution. And that is rather fabulous news, really, when you consider the size of these two nations that are trying to sort things out. So I think it's an overall positive for the market, but may not be seen so in the short term, particularly by the Wall Street press.
And Reserve Bank expected to stay on hold next week.
Yes, well, they always do the right thing. They can be relied upon to do the right thing. That's 100% assured.
Well, economic forecasting's difficult.
Yes, but some imagination would be helpful. They've been ranked pretty much the worst central bank in the West by the OECD. So I think it's a complete addiction, a holding on to the 1960s economic textbook of if you have inflation, you keep rates up. But an overheating economy is not what we have. An overheating economy driving inflation up is why you keep rates higher. Not for a weak economy, particularly a private sector that is flat or even contracting and not generating inflation. The inflation is for other reasons, not because overheating economics, and therefore raising interest rates is not the solution for this kind of inflation. Now, other central banks around the world have come to understand contemporary economics a little bit. The Reserve Bank hasn't. Reserve Bank's way behind the curve. They should have rates already at 2.75%, 2.5%. I think what will happen is they'll keep rates on hold. Then they will have to do panic rate cuts in 6 or 9 months' time and claim credit for coming to the rescue of the recession that they played a hand in causing. That's my view on the RBA.
And Clifford, quickly, just how the market finished the week.
Yeah, it's nice to see a little bit of an uptick because it's been looking a little bit ugly there. And as we know, for the last couple of weeks, the Australian market's been underperforming the US market. And of course, that's for reasons of we don't have quite the predominance of technology revolution stocks that the United States has. But we certainly do have the miners and the resource sector. I think the miners could still be a very good buy. But I do think overall the Australian market doesn't have a lot of legs to stand on with the RBA not understanding contemporary economics, with the private sector going flat to contraction. The thing that supports US stocks when it happens is massive US fund buying, and we saw that for a lot of this year. Pretty much a US takeover of the Australian market in all sorts of markets. That stopped for now, and that's why the Australian market has been underperforming. I'm a little bit worried about the Australian market, but it is nice to see an uptick on the Friday to help give everyone a more pleasant weekend.
Okay, Clifford Bennett, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you.
Well, let's have a quick look now at the market leaders. Venture Services rose. Vault Minerals went up today, as it did Westgold Resources, and Lynas also gained ground. And looking at the laggards today, Steadfast took a hit after the CEO stood aside. Lavisa fell. Alcoa was down, as was Drone Shield and JB Hi-Fi. Looking at the small caps now, European Lithium had a very good day. It rose 30%. Bougainville Copper, Nova Minerals and Sunstone Metals also gaining ground. And looking at the losers among the small caps, Polymetals Resources lost 26%, Critica fell 23%, and EQ Resources also lost ground. Let's have a look now at what's happening overnight. EU CPI estimates are out, and Canada releases its economic growth figures. And looking at the week ahead, we've got the Reserve Bank rate decision on Tuesday. No change is expected. We've also got US international trade balance out, the US ISM Services Index, and also back home we've got the International Trade in Goods, and finally on Friday the US latest economic figures. And looking quickly at the market, the CBO 200 ended higher, as did the ASX 200 index. And that's all from me. The last call is next.